Play ball!
Welcome to the SSN On Base podcast, where we're talking baseball, both MSU and everything about baseball. Here's your host, Rob Bennett.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of SSN On Base, right here exclusively on SSN 24/7 and, of course, our mobile app. We are here to discuss everything involving Michigan State baseball. I'm very excited for today's show because who do we have in studio but the entire brain trust of the program? Of course, first let me introduce pitching coach Skylar Meade. And also, of course, you hear this gentleman during the broadcast of our games, post-game, win or lose, Mr. Graham Sikes. Hey. And, of course, the gentleman that oversees it all for the Green and White on the Diamond, manager Jake Boss Jr. Been here before. You're the old veteran of the group.
I am. It's good to be back. Thanks for having us.
All right. Before we get started, I'd like to mention a gentleman that you all know who has been a part of these podcasts this year from the very beginning, of course, Jake Boss Sr. He could not make it here today due to prior commitment, which involved a golf course, I'm told.
Shock.
Yeah.
Hard to believe.
And who am I? That is one thing you don't get into with Jake Boss Sr. Is to stand in his way of a golf course.
Exactly
is that correct? I just want to verify.
No question about it.
All right. So that brings me to, and Coach Boss Sr., I hope everything's going well. Hopefully you're killing it out there on the course. But that brings me to my first question. You guys know, you hit the links, right? You hit a few golf balls, right?
Go ahead and knock it around a little bit.
All right. For you gentlemen, as coaches, of course, 24/7, this program. When you're in a D1 program, 365 days a year, recruiting, everything. But there is a little bit of time. When you do have a little bit of time, what do you guys do to unwind? Of course, family time is very important, as we all know. But what are some of the vices that you have when you do have a little bit of free time?
Well, I think for me, Rob, I do like to play a lot of golf, or a lot of golf. I like to play when I get a chance to play. But I've got 3 kids, and so it's I've got one in high school, one in middle school, and then one in elementary school now. So when we get some time off, I really prefer to spend some time with my kids. I watched my daughter play volleyball yesterday. Watched her play softball on Saturday, and my son playing softball, and our little one kind of gets carted around with us. But sure. that time is pretty precious, and it doesn't happen as much as you'd like it to, I think, with our family. So that's what for me, we try to kind of lay low as a family, and just try to spend some time together.
Graham, what are you?
I don't have a ton of hobbies. Lifestyle. This is kind of, Jake says it all the time, that this isn't a job, it's a lifestyle. So lifestyle-wise, you're doing it all the time. But the thing that I do to relax is, the one hobby I do have is woodworking. Okay. I've turned my garage into kind of my wood shop, so I'll build whatever. I'll build onto my deck, or I'll build bookcases or entertainment units or nightstands or whatever the case, whatever I feel like building. So that's one of those things I do, and I try to work out. But other than those things, I'm getting married in about 3 weeks.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So my free time now, where it used to be spent woodworking or reading, is now with Katie, and that's good with me.
Excellent. Skylar, what about you?
Well, I like to work out a lot. Basketball. I did get a little basketball in yesterday, so that was good to enjoy.
Watching the NBA Finals? Are you big?
Oh, huge NBA guy. These two judge me just like everybody else for being an NBA guy. But, yeah, NBA, I like watching that. There's no doubt. I hear my free time, though, is going to come to a screeching halt by October, having a kid in October.
Oh, congratulations to you.
Thank you. So I'm going to try to enjoy as much basketball and all other activities till that comes ceasing to a halt in October.
All right, let's take a quick look back at the season here. 34-23 overall, tied for third in Big Ten play this season. Obviously, in a very competitive conference, mind you. I don't know if fans really realize how competitive that has been for the past couple of years. You did miss the NCAA Tournament, last four out. It's been some time now after the announcement. Want to get each of your thoughts on, obviously, it's still disappointing. And if you could, what did you tell the guys as a staff and to the players, especially the seniors who have really built this program in such a positive way?
Well, yeah, obviously very disappointed. Thought we deserved a chance to continue to play, and obviously still feel that way. So we're gonna this one, for me at least, is gonna sting, I think, for a while. And I'm more excited to get back in the fall and get going with our team. But as far as our ball club and our seniors especially, we told those guys, first, don't forget the feeling for the returning guys, because we don't ever want to have to experience that again. But for our seniors, I think we thanked them for. We talk about it all the time with our guys about leaving the program in a better place than you found it, and I think they did that. And to be in the mix 3 out of 4 years for a tournament berth is something that they can really kind of hang their hats on, and something that hasn't happened at Michigan State in a long time. So thank them for everything they did for the program. They definitely left it in a better place than they found it, and it's a good group of kids. They're going to be very successful someday.
Skylar,
Well,
you handle the pitching. So
yes.
what, did you talk to them at all? Or?
We had our end of the year meetings. Been in touch with some of the guys already. Like all of us will all echo the same thing. It definitely hurts. I initially was not going to watch a lot of the tournament just to kind of try to move past it, but I've gone another way, and I think I've watched every moment of it just to kind of keep you motivated. And I really mean that. If it doesn't make you mad watching teams that that you're not just on par with, but some teams that you definitely are better than, it keeps you moving forward when you're recruiting or when you think about the fall, working with those guys. And hopefully those guys doing the same thing, because I don't want us or them to have to go through that a second time, once we're sitting here next June.
I think the bar has been set. The standard has been set, and I think that the idea is to continue to raise that bar. And guys, the seniors, I don't know the exact number of wins that they had, but I think it was more than anybody that in 4 years. So, it's when we didn't get a bid, it stung a lot. And I personally haven't watched one pitch of any of the regionals. Just my dad will text me scores and updates of the other Big Ten teams, and I tell him I have no idea what's going on, because I don't want to know really, because I know in my mind, we've played against a lot of those teams, and I know how we've fared against those teams. So I know, like Skylar said, that we're on par, if not better, than some of those teams. The idea now is, and the motivation now is to finish that work, so we don't let others dictate our future. We can dictate our own future.
5 Big Ten schools in the NCAA tournament. I believe that's a record. So obviously that, as a whole for the Big Ten Conference, which you guys root for, obviously is a positive step in the right direction.
No question about it. The league was as good this year as any year that I've been in it, and obviously that's been proven out by the tournament bids. And as unfortunate it is for us, not to be there, I think it's Big Ten baseball is getting the reputation now that it deserves, and I think that we've all thought that we should have had for a long time.
All right, leadership. Lose a lot of leadership on every aspect of the diamond, pitching, hitting, and just feeling overall. We're going to start with the hitting aspect with you, Graham. Guys like Blaze Salter, who has had quite a great career here, but in the same aspect. A lot of young guys coming up that we've seen this year, too. A lot of freshmen coming up. So even though you lose a lot in that aspect hitting-wise, you've got a lot of young guys, Chad Roskelley, Dan Durkin, who came in a couple of times in key situations. A lot of freshmen coming in key situations and delivering. So that future's got to be bright as far as the hitting aspect of things go for this team.
Yeah, definitely. Brandon Hughes had a big year. Roskelley had a good year. When it comes down to like who you lose and all that stuff, every year you're going to lose good players. Yeah. And every year somebody, you hope, and it has been the case with us, every year somebody comes in and overperforms or outperforms maybe our expectations. I think about, you mentioned Blaze, maybe his freshman year, he got, I don't think he got 100 at-bats, but the time when he was in there, he was pretty good, and then his sophomore year took off. I don't think I expected that kind of production out of him. This year, Chad Riskelly was that guy. We didn't expect quite the production we got out of him, and he outperformed probably, maybe not his expectations, but I didn't see, 5 home runs, 35, 40 RBIs, or whatever it was, and unbelievable defense. So next year, it will be somebody else, and we don't know who, but there are capable players in the program, very capable. So one of those guys will come in and outperform maybe our expectations, and you need that.
And on the pitching aspect, I mean, when Kinley, who did a miraculous job, closer to starter to closer, whatever you put him in, he seemed to excel. And, of course, Mick Van Vossen, another senior with a lot of leadership, maybe not had the year overall, but, I mean, has definitely put his stamp on this program as pitching. But then you look at guys like Cam View and Andrew Gonzalez and young guys coming up as far as pitching. And pitching really, correct me if I'm wrong, but really showed the way, especially early on in the season when the offense was a little bit struggling and trying to find themselves. So you've got to be just as excited handling the pitchers coming, for next season and into the future.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, and you mentioned those 2 seniors. They definitely had unbelievable careers, Kinley and Van Vossen. And even though, Mick didn't have the year that we all hoped, his leadership within the group of pitchers in the team was unbelievable. And, I know Coach mentioned it to him many times. I mean, he was a level-headed force in our dugout to keep us moving throughout the year. Kinley could kind of do anything and everything. But the young guys, there's definitely a standard. The pitching's been really solid here for a long time. We continued that this year, but I think it can be even better. One thing that we'll have to have next year with whomever our starters are, and we have no idea who those 3 weekend guys will be, but our starters got to find a way to go even deeper in games so that we don't tax that bullpen so much. And I think that we will. We'll find out who those guys are come into the summer, into the fall. But there's a lot of viable candidates for whoever is going to fit into roles. I think those guys are all going to be successful in whatever they do.
It's a good problem to have.
Yes, definitely.
And how important now is the fall and developing maybe leadership? I mean, you hear that a lot. It grows with the off-season program and the guys sticking together and doing things together where you as coaches can't really oversee everything. There's rules, of course, NCAA rules and things of that. So how important is the fall conditioning to find that quote-unquote leadership on each side of the ball? And, of course, you do get to do a couple of scrimmages. But overall, the leadership, trying to find the next group or person that really takes it, because we don't know what's going to happen to Cam Gibson also, another upperclassman. He might go into the draft depending on what happens there. We're still on, we still don't know about that. So leadership is going to be key, as it is always. So the fall programming and the fall, stuff that needs to be done, how important is that, Coach?
Well, extremely. I think each team has a moment, and the 2015 team's moment is past, and the 2014 team had their moment, and so on. But the 2016 teams, their moment starts in the fall, and that's when everything starts to come together. It's a completely new group of guys. We'll have, I think 10 or 11 new players coming in next fall, and so that's where the team starts to be built. And obviously there are some, a lot of technique type of things that we need to work on in the fall, and we'll get a lot of good work done in practice. But, the community service stuff, the stuff off the field, in the locker room, the leadership piece of it is really when that all starts to form. And, we've got some outstanding leaders coming back, guys that are, obviously going to be seniors, but then there are some young underclassmen that I think are going to be tremendous leaders here for us. And those guys, even though they're not seniors, we've encouraged several of them to kind of, step up and not be afraid to take a leadership role. And I think that's what's important. Coach Izzo talks about, a player-coach team, being really good, being a lot better than a team that has to be coached by its coach. And, we've kind of tried to convey that to our guys as well. They need to take some ownership in the program, and every year they do, and they do a great job of that. And so next fall is when that all starts.
All right, and for all you guys, I mean, we just talked about the freshmen that came in last year, and not getting into too specifics, but how exciting is it to see the freshmen coming in this year? And these freshmen last year really set the bar pretty high. I mean, There's no question about that. I was talking with Senior not too long ago, and he said this class coming in could possibly, depending on situations, could be your best class. So without giving too much away specifics, just talk, all three of you, talk about the class coming in and how exciting that's going to be.
Well, first, I would say, Graham as a recruiting coordinator has done a tremendous job, going out and identifying talent early especially. And, Skylar really hit the ground running when he got here last summer. And so these two guys have worked their tails off in order to find some guys that are capable of winning a Big Ten title here at Michigan State. And I think we've done that. We got a couple junior college guys coming in, a kid from Arizona named Jordan Zimmerman, and then a kid from California named Taylor Grace. And we think that those guys are going to be able to swing the bat for us, really well, and try to, I think they'll be capable of jumping right in and contributing immediately. There's a good mix of talent from not only the Midwest, but from, like I said, from California and Arizona. We've got a shortstop coming in from Canada who's going to be a heck of a player on the Canadian junior national team, and some arms coming in from the States that are going to be very good, if not their freshman year down the road, and some very projectable guys. So I think it's a very balanced class, and we're excited to see where they take us.
Graham, we talked about recruiting and how important it is to kind of hone in on your home state, but as Coach just said, you kind of have to venture out now, out west, Canada even, and things of that. How important is it to kind of stretch the brand now that you guys have had very good success over the past 5-6 years, and expanding the brand out west? We took, going out there to play UCLA early in the season, important to expand that. So being able to stretch out to those areas that aren't well known for Midwest teams, that's pretty important.
Yeah, within recruiting, it's there are so many parts to it. 10 years ago, Michigan State in California or Canada might not resonate like it does today because of the Big Ten network, because of, and then you couple that with, when the Big Ten network was taken off, we started having some success. And, of course, the campus sells itself, the school sells itself. Those two things have always been great. And now the kids out west or Arizona or Canada or where it is, they've heard of Michigan State. They've seen us on TV. They've seen us in the Rose Bowl. They've seen us playing in the Final Four. Those type of things. Those help sell immensely. And the level of baseball, the Big Ten Conference, see all these teams in the Big Ten on TV and the regional stuff like that. Those help sell to the kids. And so it's not so much there's talent everywhere. So it is finding the right kind of kid for our program. And, in each year it's going to look different. So this year we graduated all those hitters and all that production. So you need to find hitters that can come in and hopefully pick up that slack. So you get junior college guys. And so we were fortunate to get Jordan Zimmerman and Taylor Grace. Matt Byers is a catcher from Heartland Community College. Those guys have probably 600 at-bats under their belt between the fall and spring of 2 years of junior college baseball. So that's going to help a ton. And then you build around that with speed and tools. Robbie Jones is a guy from West Bloomfield that can fly. Marty Bikina is from Chicago. He's a really, really good ball player. Royce Ando is a kid from Canada that can fly and play really good defense. So Riley McCauley, Colin Goslin, Matt Clark, all those guys are going to build. They all have talent tools for sure.
So what do you look for when you're out there hitting the ground running, as Coach said?
Well, one thing, and Graham kind of touched on it a little bit, and Coach Boss has been able to do this through just success on the field, but also where we go in the country. But Michigan State is a brand, and if you're not going to have a kid from Michigan, you want someone coming in here who's still going to have huge pride in being a Spartan. And you start to really see that, at least for me in my first year, just being a part of it when you're recruiting these kids. The guys who are here now and the guys who are coming in, they aren't thinking about being anywhere else. They're excited to be where they're at. They take deep pride in it and how they go about their business, go about their work, so that once they get here, they're able to compete for a Big Ten title. So, I've enjoyed that. When I go out and recruit, people are excited that you're there, they're excited. I was recruiting, last couple days, and you go to these parks and families and people, it's a buzz when Michigan State is in the park, and that's good for us when we go out there and try to identify or follow talent. And, we're definitely going to coach them once they get here. But, they went through all the names of the guys, and I've got to see some who were committed and, eventually signed in the fall, guys I had not seen, and I've been able to, watch them this spring. And there's big physical guys, there's toolsy guys, and then there's just some ball players. So it's an outstanding mix that we're definitely excited about.
We talk about the players all the time, Coach, but you got to think about the families as well and bringing them into the Spartan family and making sure that their families are comfortable, just not the student athlete.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's an experience for the entire family, and I think we travel well on the road. There's everywhere we go, there's a lot of families there. There's a lot of green and white in the stands. I mean, we went in consecutive weekends from UCLA on the Pacific Coast to Myrtle Beach, on the Atlantic coast, and there was, all kinds of green and white there in both places. And so, it's important to have that type of family atmosphere. We try to really encourage that in the fall with some different things that we do, and inviting moms and dads and brothers and sisters in, and just so that everybody can get to know each other. It's a very, tightly knit team, but our families are very close to each other too, and those are, these are lifelong relationships that they're going to have, and so very important. There's a lot that goes into it, I think, off the field that a lot of people don't see.
All right, finally, I want to ask you gentlemen, what was the biggest thing that maybe you learned from each other this season? Maybe something you didn't know, or something that maybe was emphasized to each of you. Coach, I'll start with you.
Well, let me just first of all say that I think these guys and the staff that I have is just tremendous, and I wouldn't trade them for anybody. That's the best staff, the hardest working staff that I've ever been around, and I think there's a lot that we can learn from each other. Graham's a hard worker and is ready to get out and pound the pavement and see these guys and very committed to what he does and to our program. And I think there are times where that's good for me, to see. It's a reminder of what we're doing when you get maybe a little discouraged after a bad loss, or you're burning the candle at both ends with family things going on and things like that. But it's a good reminder that of what it takes to be successful at this level. And Skylar's no different. Skylar's a hard worker, very passionate about what he does, and this is I think it's my 22nd year in coaching, and I think there are times where I can kind of sit back and I wouldn't say get complacent, but there are times where I'm probably not as passionate as I need to be, and I think both these guys really kind of help bring that out for me. So our volunteer Ian Hearn was the same way. Kids loved him in the dugout. He kept things loose and kept things very upbeat in the dugout, and that's important. We have a very balanced staff.
That's a deep question, Rob. I mean, you could get really
we're getting
deep.
Philosophy up in here,
Let's get philosophical.
Yeah.
Every year I feel like I learn something, and I have changed. I feel like I've changed. Maybe, I don't know, you'd have to ask other people, but I feel like I've changed each of the last maybe 6 or 7 years based on input from other coaches or just growing up. My personality as a player is completely different now as a coach, and it's completely different from 26 years old to 36 years old. Some of that might be wisdom, some of it might be maturity, some of it might be having other people in my life that are barometers for me. One of the things that I've learned here is the value of change and being able to adjust and adapt style, matters of substance, we're not going to change the character, the lessons that we teach guys. They're based in something much deeper than just baseball. So those aren't going to change, but the style and way that you can go about teaching and coaching can change. So I've learned that. Skylar, each year there have been some different coaches. With Eric Roof came and went. Coach Senior was here before that. Mark Vanderby came and went with him, and now with Skylar. So Skylar, I see one of the things that I've learned from him is I've watched him interact with the players, and he's very intense, but at the same time very relatable and to the players, and is direct, but also I guess meets the players where they are. And sometimes for me, a fault of mine is I get frustrated. I get maybe too upset sometimes. And with those couple of things, the value of change and the value of meeting players where they are, or positivity, or whatever the case may be, those are the things I've learned this year.
Well, Skylar, you can tell the intensity just by him going out to talk to pitchers out in the. He doesn't waste any time, right? He gets right out there.
That's right.
All right, this being your first season under your belt now, what are some of the things that you've learned and maybe that were emphasized by these guys?
Well, you learn a lot. I mean, what people don't think about with the coaching staff is how much time you actually spend together. And yes, there's 3 hours. 56 or more days in a year that you're together on a field, but they forget all the practices, the times in the locker room where you're just sitting there just, talking about maybe not even baseball, you're in the office. There's a lot of things. So sometimes you learn things that aren't even necessarily purely baseball. I knew Graham a little bit before I got here. We would talk on the road, over, I guess, the course of probably the previous 5-6 years, give or take. But one thing I've learned from Graham is he has a cerebral way, a very thought-oriented way of evaluating things, and sometimes that data can prove to be really important. And yes, his is from a hitting side that sometimes he brings to the table, but it helps me because sometimes you trust your gut so much that you don't go with numbers. Okay. And a lot of times numbers do tell you a story. And, Graham's very detailed with what he gives the hitters in terms of feedback so that they know where they stand. And that's something that, telling a guy and then showing a guy, you got to sometimes connect the both of them. And he does a great job with that. With him, I've seen this. His work ethic recruiting is off the charts. I've always known that. But, even on a recruiting side, He values things, particularly in position guys, just upon tools. And sometimes you forget that. You want a player who can just play, but there's a strong value to projecting where they're going to be not just at 16, but where they're going to be at 20 with a tool. We mentioned a guy who's coming in, Robbie Jones. Robbie Jones in the past may have been a guy I personally might not have initially liked as much because there's some things that are crude, but what you forget is how good this guy's going to be. Because you can't teach a guy to run that fast. He's left-handed. He's got a strong arm. And then, when I go see him another time, I go, man, I see what Graham saw. So those are some things I learned with Coach Boss, getting to be around him just in the last 9-10 months. One, he's a great force next to me in the dugout, sometimes just showing me patience. Not showing me, but showing the group patience with what's going on because I'm not very patient. I like to not always think it's a fault, but sometimes they certainly can be.
Yeah.
But it is really, really good for me just to learn that sometimes you just let a situation play out, And when you're dealing with guys who are 18 to 21, sometimes it's hard to remember that. But it's important to have somebody sitting there telling me, hey, no, let this go. Or other times saying, yeah, we're on the same page here. But it definitely helps keep me even keel. The other thing is just with Coach, his overall approach to how he runs his program. It's not easy being a head coach. Graham and I talk about this all the time, just as assistants. It is different. What we have to worry about and what a head coach has to worry about is vastly different. So it's great for me, being the third head coach I've worked under, to see how his approach is very different. And I've worked for really all three great guys. Mm-hmm. But the way Coach kind of can actually coach, yet appease a lot of other people, is truly impressive. And I haven't been around another coach who can do that as well. And I think that's why he's so well respected at Michigan State and in the community, but certainly respected from us, because that's not an easy thing to do.
It's a big love fest around here. I love it.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You asked the deep question.
Yeah. That's what you wanted, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's great stuff. And with that note, I want to thank you guys for joining us here for SSN On Base. I appreciate your time. I know you guys are still very busy, even though it's quote-unquote the off-season. So I want to thank Coach Skylar Meade, Coach Graham Sikes, and, of course, Manager Jake Boss Jr. for joining us. Stay tuned for more exclusive coverage, even during the fall. So you guys aren't going to get rid. Yeah, we're sticking around. You won't get rid of me that easy.
Nice,
right? So So we're going to have some stuff in the fall. So stay tuned for that, fans. I want to thank, of course, Seth Newman, producer extraordinaire, who helped us out here today. Can't do it without him. And until next time, fans, go green.